Did you ever create a theme in your bullet journal that you just didn't like, you loved it? Well, this was the one for me. I've been holding on to these two PET tapes just for this setup, and I could have not chosen a better theme to start 2026. Hi, I'm Juliana and welcome back to another video. Today we are setting up January in my bullet journal and the theme is blue lanterns. Let's start with the cover spread, of course, and this was a setup that I imagined in my head as soon as I got the tapes, and it really came out just as I wanted. Sometimes what we imagine doesn't turn out so well, or it just went in a completely different direction, but thankfully this one is perfect. It's probably in my top 5 and I really loved it. Unfortunately, when I went to see if these two tapes were available, they were not anymore, but don't worry, I can also find you some alternatives, and I'm going to show you very soon how you can recreate this theme without the tapes. But for now, let's start decorating the cover spread. I had a vision. It would be like you are on the street and you look above you to see all these strings across the buildings and all these beautiful lanterns hanging from them. For this very specific page, I took inspiration from a very old January theme from Amanda Rachley, but she drew everything while I'm using the PET tapes. One of the tapes has other designs among the lanterns, but I'm exclusively using the lanterns and some butterflies that are part of some designs. So I'm basically mix and matching the two tapes together. Since they are a very similar color of blue, they look beautiful together and seem like they are from the same tape. And so to connect all the lanterns, I used a blue fineliner to make lines across the page, and that's going to be the strings where the lanterns are hanging from. Also, if my voice sounds a little weird, that's because I'm recovering from the flu and I'm still not 100% fine, but we're getting there. For those lanterns on the bottom, I really wanted to give the look that the strings still continue on after the page, and to make sure I wasn't wasting the designs because I had a limited quantity, I cut the excess off and put it somewhere else. I had my sticker release book right beside me to put all those tiny scraps for later use. For the titles, I knew I wanted something elegant, very flowy, to match the aesthetic of the lanterns instead of a bigger and bolder font, so I just wrote in my usual calligraphy with the same blue fineliner and tried to make it more on an angle, and then I went over it to make some lines a little thicker, to make it pop against the page. On the left page I'm going to write a quote, and one I chose is "Nothing can dim the light that shines from within." And I forgot to put the name of the author on the page, but this quote is from Maya Angelou. And now, before we continue, let me show you how you can recreate this beautiful theme. I got this watercolor sketchbook from Arrtx, which they kindly sent me, and this one is just one of a few different sizes and designs that you can choose from. This sketchbook has high quality watercolor paper with 300 GSM, 24 sheets of paper, and it is made of 100% cotton, acid free. This one in particular is pocket size, and it doesn't show very well on camera, but the cover actually has little sparkles, which is awesome. You guys know I love shiny things. Another amazing thing about this sketchbook is that it has a lay flat design and tearable pages, so that you can actually use your drawings and creations on your journals, or you can also frame them or even gift to a friend as a birthday gift. The options are endless. You can actually feel the thickness of the paper, and one difference among the sketchbooks is that the blue one, that is square size, is a cold press instead of hot press like these other three. And for those who don't know, including me because I went searching, the difference is basically the texture. Cold press is more textured, has high absorbency, and it's great for loose styles. On contrary, hot press has a smoother paper, the paint sits a little longer, and it's perfect for those little details. As you saw, I already sketched out my drawing, but before we go right in, let's go to the last page and do a quick little paper test with some different materials. I actually already started with some alcohol markers with some colors that I'm going to use for the drawing, and this is going to be my chosen medium for the drawing, because this girl right here can't use watercolor to save her life. And to match the theme, I'm going to use all blue colors across the different mediums. So I decided to test out alcohol markers, watercolors, water-based markers, paint markers, acrylic paint, and a fineliner. And to my surprise, the alcohol markers, which bleed through any paper, actually hold up pretty well. There's some ghosting, but that's because of the darker colors, and they didn't bleed through, which is amazing because alcohol markers are the medium that I most use for my drawings, and when I want a seamless transition and blending, they are what I reach for, so I can actually use a sketchbook where they don't bleed through, which is amazing for me. I was really searching for one that could hold up the alcohol, and this one exceeded my expectations. So now let's go back to my drawing, and you can see my pencil sketch. So we are going over it with a black fineliner so that we can erase all the pencil marks after that. For the design, I used one of the lanterns of the tapes as inspiration, and of course we are going to color this lantern in blue to match the theme. I could choose between the sketchbooks, and I ended up choosing this one because if I draw anything for my journal, I usually do a more vertical drawing, so this one is the perfect size to fit my A5 journal or even my square size reading journal if I decide to eventually draw on a monthly setup. To color in the lantern, I'm using the alcohol markers from Arrtx, the ones I used for my 2026 initial setup, and I chose only 4 colors. 2 for the base colors and the other 2 for shadows. Honestly, it's better to watch than to explain because I can explain really well, so I'm going to let you see for yourself. I didn't have an exact match to the blue color on the tapes, so I went with a similar color palette. The beauty of making or drawing your own theme is that you can choose whatever color you want. I actually gravitate towards deep and darker colors like dark blue, dark green, browns or deep reds, and to contrast with them, I also like beiges and creams. So this lantern theme is actually an awesome way to make it your own. You don't have to choose blue, you can choose green, red, pink, orange, whatever you want, and it's going to turn out just as beautiful. I really like that this paper doesn't make the ink of the alcohol marker spread out too much. It's honestly pretty on point. I don't know if you saw my 2026 setup, but if you did, you know that I struggled a little bit with the alcohol markers on sticker paper, and that's because the paper doesn't absorb the ink as well as this one does, so when I colored on a part, it would spread out and go over the line. So this can show you how much the GSM on the paper is important. All the little details and shadows are done, and I must say that I'm really proud of how this lantern turned out. I haven't drawn anything for like 3 months, so this being the first time I drew in a while is amazing for me. The markers show up a little bit in the back, but that's the points where I went over the color again and again, which saturated the paper a little more than the rest of the drawing, but this is actually really good. It didn't transfer to the other page, and if I wanted, I could take off this page and glue it in my journal. We are not doing that because I already made my cover page, but I just wanted to show you that it's not impossible to recreate this theme, and instead of one big lantern, you could draw smaller ones and make a collage with them. Let's move on to the calendar spread, and let's start with a very basic layout. I used the blue Fineliner to make all the lines. I didn't want to do anything in black because I really like this monochrome color palette and I think it looks very good. So this calendar layout is one I do all the time because it's a classic. Sometimes I like to experiment with the calendar shape, like putting space between the squares or making a little row for the number on top of each square, but sometimes less is more, and I think this one looks very good with the theme. But I still wanted a little something else, so I drew a little frame around the calendar and I colored it in blue. I used one marker and then I used another one on top of it to achieve the blue I wanted to match the lanterns, and I think this frame really complements the overall theme. It has the same motifs on some of the lanterns, so I think it matches really well. I put my lanterns across the spread in different directions, and some of the strings look like they are behind the calendar. I just really wanted to fill the spread as much as I could without looking too overwhelming. But I think the lanterns are spread out enough that it looks good. And of course, I really tried to optimize the empty space and make sure I was putting different sizes of the lanterns in different spots. And I think like that, the smallest ones look like they are further away than the ones that are bigger, if that makes any sense. Then on top of the calendar, I didn't want to take off the lantern that is on the Sunday column, and I also didn't want to write a single letter in my sticker paper, so I just didn't write at all. It's okay, of course I know which day of the week it is, so it's completely fine if the space is occupied by the lantern. And now let's move on to my next spread, that is my tasks. So, if you watch my monthly setups, you already know by now what this spread is for. But for those who don't know, this is a pretty empty spread until I use it. In here, I write all of my lists of whatever I have to do in that month. Usually it's related to my YouTube channel and these videos that you are currently seeing, but it can also be for anything else. I used to write my tasks in my weekly spreads, but some of those tasks went over several weeks, so to not write everything over and over again, I decided to transfer all of those lists to a different spread, which is this one. And now my weekly spreads are only used to annotate events, birthdays, appointments, or when my videos are going up. So they are still working together even though the tasks and details about those videos are on a different spread. Also, you saw that I went back and added another string across the ones that I already made, and I think it looks so much better. It just was missing something, and that was it. So we are now on a totally different spread that I didn't make for a while now, and this is my January in review. In my 2026 initial setup, I talked about making my journaling experience more fun while I was creating a bingo, and this is one of the spreads that I'm going to test out. My favorite journal to update and set up is always my reading journal, and I think it's because I really have fun doing it and talking about it. And usually the last 3 months of the year are the most hard for me to update my journal, and I think it's because I'm a little burned out by the end of the year and it's the same thing over and over. So my idea is that every month I make one of these spreads and I can switch things out, review something else if I want, and that's going to make me want to use my journal. I also leave 1 or 2 empty spreads after each monthly setup to make some memory spreads with ephemera and things like that, and it helped a little, so let's see how this goes. It's an experiment, but I'm hopeful. So the things that I made sections for are my favorite book of the month, my favorite manga or manhwa, I just wrote it as a general thing, and my favorite music. Then we have the series and the anime that I'm currently watching in 2 different sections. And the last column is for the quote of the month, so any quote that stuck with me, it can be from a book or from anything that I read online. And the very big section is for places I visited. And here I can write any new restaurant that I went, any cafes that I went with my best friend, or even a weekend getaway or a concert, for example. Anything that I experienced that month. And I think these categories are quite good, so I really hope that I fill them up. Oh, and one thing that I'm excited for is making, maybe, a little collage for any anime or series that I'm watching, or even just put a little character on the corner of the rectangle and call it a day. I just want to incorporate more of the fun things I do in my life in my journal, not just work-related things. I really want to make this bullet journal a time capsule. And moving on, we are making my weekly spreads, and of course, for the first month of the year, I have to start with a bang and make my favorite weekly layout, that's a Dutch door. So I'm cutting out the little extra parts of the page that I don't want, and I'm counting each little Dutch door as a week, so in total we are going to have 6 spreads. But it's going to look like it's all on the same spread. I'm not the best at explaining Dutch doors, but I think you can see what I'm doing and understand it a little better. I try not to cut all the way through to the binding because I still want to keep the structural integrity of the journal intact, so I just put a little piece of the transparent tape on top of the little scraps that are left on the binding, and like that they don't get in the way of the decorations. And most of the time the stickers or tapes or whatever I'm using are put on top of it, so it looks completely fine. If you are doing vertical Dutch doors, so just cutting the page in width, you don't have to be careful with the binding because you don't even touch it. But if you cut in length, it's another story. So just be careful and make sure you don't damage the binding that holds the whole journal together. Since the 1st of January falls on a Thursday, it only gives me 4 days on the week. And yes, I could add the December days, but I like to start each month on the first day, so I just divided the first Dutch door in 4 different sections for the 4 days of the first week. And then for the rest of them, I divided them in 8 squares, 7 for the days of the week and 1 for notes. Except the last Dutch door, in which I added the first 2 days of February. Just because it left me with 2 empty squares and I didn't need 2 note sections. But I'm still making space for the 2 first days of February in that monthly setup, so it's still set up as I like. This turned out to be one of my favorite spreads in this whole setup, and that says a lot because my weekly spreads are always the ones I don't like as much as the others. So I just did the same as before and made 2 strings across the 2 pages and made sure some of the lanterns were on top of the Dutch door and some were behind it. It just looks more dynamic that way, and I think it looks very cool. And with the spread covered in lanterns, let's move on to the last spread of this theme, which is going to be a brain dump as always. I love this spread. It's a hit or miss for me. There are months where I use it a lot and there are months where I don't use it at all, and that's completely fine. I still like to set it up just in case I need it. As you probably know, a brain dump is pretty much an empty spread in which you can write whatever comes to you. It can be a quick reminder of something, a little note on how your day went, or it can be a detail that you have to remember for a project you are working on. I like to use this spread for any details for my videos, especially if they are made with a brand collaboration, since I have to follow certain indications that they give me, and sometimes I just like to write about something that I remembered I had to do. It can be literally anything. With my supervisor Safira here to make sure I'm doing it right, I decorated around the spread but still kept the middle part quite empty, and on the top right corner I'm writing Mind Unwind, which is a more elegant title than Brain Dump. And now it's time for the final flip through. I'm all ready to start 2026 with a beautiful theme, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you did, give a like, subscribe, and comment down below a lantern emoji to let me know you watched it till the end. This is really one of my favorite themes I've made, and I think I can give myself a little pat on the back for this one. I cannot wait to start the new year and see what comes next. I'm not really focused and pressured on my goals, but I do have one that I really would like to see accomplished until next December, which is having 4,000 subscribers. It's a lot, I know, but I'm really close to 3,000, and it's, a goal that's out of my hands, but I still work quite hard for this channel, so I hope to see that number and know that my community is growing. That really makes me happy. If you are one of my regular viewers or you are new, I really hope you liked what you saw and stick around for more. And before I leave you, don't forget to check out Arrtx and their beautiful products, such as the sketchbook I showed you earlier on the video, or their acrylic and alcohol markers. I hope you have a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!